We designed a system that makes engagement hard. I was knocking thousands of doors in Pennsylvania in the fall of 24, and I can't tell you the number of times that I went to knock on a door and the garage door opened and it's parents piling their kids into the back of the car, and because it's soccer practice or whatever the case may be. And, they would look at me and they'd be like, oh, yeah, we're voting for her. People have life happening.
Mm-hmm.
These are not groundbreaking ideas, but the fact that we don't have election day off, the fact that early voting windows fluctuate by state, the fact that, in some states, I love this state. I lived in Texas for 5 years, but there are 3 elections in 90 days, right? Because you have the primary, the municipal, and then the runoff. Like, these are just all barriers, not to mention the absolute overt ways in which people are being removed from the rolls, or I believe conversations around voter ID are misplaced, right? Anyway, there are so many barriers because we've designed it to be hard. So great. It's working as it intended. I'm just starting to learn more about the movements for mobile voting, the movements for just basically anything that makes the polls more convenient. I'm really fascinated into how that would work, and I think that there's a ton of potential. I think people want the friction because they want people who are quote unquote informed. There's other ways that we could solve the information gap. And then I grew up in Pennsylvania, as we've well established. We do not have direct democracy. Out here in California, we do. And I will just tell you that direct democracy feels really off to me. We have these referenda where if you actually believe in something, you might need to vote yes on one, but no on the other because they're like, that is actually the same thing. Like, it should not take that level of literacy to be able to express yourself. I'm not sure that this is like the biggest thing, but I think it's indicative of the types of challenges. Like, we are not making the actual process of translating your values into representation easy. And Sway aims to solve that by putting a trust layer between you and your representatives, meaning someone who's out there doing the work. You are saying, like, here you go. I'm going to add a little square to your superhero quilt. Go off and do this work for me. That's not problematic to me at all, because there are people who are out there, many of whom should have big platforms, but are screaming into the void. Like, let's connect people with the people who are doing this work, who are trying to make it easy, who are trying to share the values of their communities back to representatives, because that whole communication chain thus far doesn't feel optimized.